Harlan,
Hi.
what's going on? We got you live here right now. We brought you right in.
Yeah, so don't use any of those
We're
swear
throwing you under
words.
the
Okay.
bus here. You're live right now.
Yeah, there you go. Well, SunPower, I got to agree with you. There's just a lot of overhead supply. I mean, given what we've just seen 4 or 5 days ago, I mean, the whole market, it fell apart and it did a tennis ball bounce off the court. You're bouncing up into a lot of overhead supply. So, as far as SunPower, I'm pretty mute on it.
Yeah, the overhead supply is a good term to say, and I see this in a lot of stock charts right
It
now. And
seems like
obviously, it's
everything.
because we traded. Why we traded so much at this 1870, 1880, 1890 area. We've topped out here a few times before. So I
Right?
mean, that's why you're seeing all this overhead supply in so many stocks. So I just don't know if it's going to have the gas to just pound through this here or not. I mean, if anything, Ken, it's going to be earnings that are going to bring us through. Obviously we're in the middle of earnings season. That's drove us up to these things, but can it drive us to new highs? And can we get up to that whole 1900 area, Harland? Is that possible here, or are we just going to keep running into this overhead supply?
Well, take a look at the S&P for a minute. I mean, for Christ's sake, we came down from 1815 up to 1885. The whole range throughout this whole run here is 1815 to 1895. I mean, what do you got? 15 points to a retest of the high versus, if we come back down to support, that's 60 points.
Yeah.
So, how much is that 15 points worth to you? If you
Right.
think about how much risk are you taking
Yep.
Good point.
if we come back down. So, I mean, that's the way I got to look at it. The NASDAQ's the same way. 5, 6 days, the NASDAQ went, what, 200 points, and you want to start buying now? So you're right. A lot of stocks have came up, and they've bounced, and a lot of them are bouncing up into overhead supply. So, I guess one of the things that I've been seeing yesterday is with regards to earnings are doing the moves. But you know what? That all takes place in the form of a gap. So, gaps get sold, gaps get filled. So, you got to kind of look at that and start to think that, oh, geez, anything that's popping. I mean, it's like you guys were talking about Boeing. You're right. There's massive supply, and resistance right up there. So, and it's sat there, it looks like it fell out of a 10-story building, because when you fall out of a building that high, you're not going to get up and walk away. Maybe you crawl, and that's the way I kind of look at Boeing. So, when I saw that chart, I said, yeah, I got to agree with you guys. Resistance is right there, which brings up an interesting point about news-driven markets, reactionary gaps. Why don't you pull up a chart of, let's just say a 2-day chart of ISRG.
Okay, someone was
Yep.
talking about playing that. Okay.
Let me see, where are we here? I can't see it
Wow.
on your screen.
It's an interesting chart. the
Jeez.
huge. It's been a fun April. For not for longs, but for shorts maybe. Holy cow! The big run up, the big gap and go, and then the gap down and the gap
Wait,
down
well, you
and
see,
go.
that's just it. That's just it. Look at that.
Crazy looking
You
chart.
saw that big gap. If you can throw it on, what do you got, a daily 6-month? Why don't you throw it on a 2-day 1 minute?
Oh, you're trying to get the old 2-day 1 minute on me. Okay, give me a
Yeah, because
sec.
it really shows something really
Show
neat.
yesterday's action maybe.
Oh, no, I'm doing exactly what
Yep.
Harlan said.
Okay, do it.
Okay, all right. That's just, okay. Go ahead. That has a pre-market trading in it, so I don't know. Is that what you're looking for? Not really.
That works.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that works. You look at it and you go, we got that news on Tuesday. What did they get? Approval of a new and better Da Vinci or something like that. The stock gapped up huge. You see what happened after it gapped up? Instantly, they sold it off. So, that's really where the trade is. Strength does get sold ultimately, and so do gaps. Now, if you look at Netflix, Netflix popped on earnings instantly. If you shorted the open, bam, it was down 10 points in a matter of, a couple of minutes, assuming you could fire off a short sell on it. So, which one is that? Yeah, ISRG that you got up there.
Yeah, I'm just going back. I mean, to the dailies here. I mean, the way I look at this one, I mean, it had the big, I don't know if I'd be shorting into this move up here. I mean, you did put 3 lows in between 408 and the 413 level. So I'm looking 410 to hold up here pretty good.
Well, they were down $39 though this morning. We had earnings, so
Oh,
410.
well, what do
Yeah,
I know?
383 right now. So it's getting killed on the earnings report from last night, which was one we didn't get to. Actually, there's so many earnings report we can't get to them all. So they did report disappointing numbers here last night. The CEO even called Q1 a difficult one, was his words, which is not good to say. And the stock's trading down 9%. So wow,
Right.
it's
Well,
a
I
bash.
guess my whole point with it is when you get these big gap ups in earnings or even news driven events, because earnings are fall into that category too. You know, ISRG was a great example of you got to fade the gap. Same thing with Netflix. So I just be really careful about chasing, especially with the backdrop that we're in. I mean, look at how far the markets came in the last 5-6 days.
Yeah,
It came very far. So that's the backdrop you're trading against. Very limited upside, at least in the S&P. Sure, maybe we go up and retest the highs. Who knows? If we do, well, guess what? It's resistance. So, when you see issues that, put in these big gaps, the day traders, the scalpers, there's a few of them that they tend to fade those gaps, get in, get out, and you're done for the day.
Yeah, they don't
So,
care. Yeah. Well, we did quite a lengthy discussion here on some of these biotechs here, and they're getting great bounces here, and Dennis is just has a couple in his portfolio here. These stocks like taking Gilead here. I mean, are you just going with the same scenario here? The stock just got beaten up here and getting a pop, and perhaps it's an opportunity. Longs will be looking out there to sell this, opposed to buying it and expecting it to go back over $84.
well, I guess the best way to sum up the bios is it's a wild, wild west. I mean, really. I mean, look at Gilead right now. I mean, off its peak, 84 to, what is that, about 60?
Yep.
60-ish, somewhere
64,
around
yeah.
there?
Yeah,
All right.
63,
What's the
60.
overall trend of this issue?
It looks
Off of
like it's
that peak?
down now when you look at it just from the last few, from the last 3-4
Well,
months with the
from the
chart you
marked
got up there.
highs,
Yeah.
it's lower lows and lower highs.
Yeah.
So, as far as Gilead, I mean, when you have an analyst that says it doesn't get any better than this and the stock isn't sitting at 84, I agree with you. It kind of makes you wonder, if it's not priced to perfection. The group is the wild, wild west. So, I mean, if it's still hanging around 74, 75, because I got to agree with you guys, that's a resistance zone right up in here. So, I'm just
And it's
not.
struggling to get through there. Like there is somebody in the pre-market defending it. Like we looked at this morning, it was traded 400,000. Now it traded 1 million shares. So basically 600,000 here in the last 40 minutes since we started the show, and it hasn't moved up at all. So there's somebody that's coming out here and saying, "Get me the hell out of here" in the pre-market. So and
Well,
that's a scary thing.
for every buyer, there's got to be a
True.
seller.
True. So there's somebody saying, "Get me the
And,
hell in here too."
Well, sometimes these big institutions, though, they do use strengths to lighten the load. They try to
Yep.
sell their peanuts while the circus is in town.
Yep.
I mean, try and sell a few million shares in a bad market. You're just going to blow it up on yourself.
It's
So,
very true.
they literally have to get out while the getting's good, because simply otherwise they'll just blow it up on themselves. So you got to really look at a little bit deeper into the moving size. If you're a big institution and you're trying to move some size, you leave a very big footprint no matter what you do.
Just switching over to the Biogen here, it did hit a high at 313.85. We have backed off 3 points since then. So keeping eye on that is potential resistance level. A little bit higher up, you had a high at 316.74 and 317 on April 1st and April 2nd. But I don't know. I'm kind of scared here because Harlan, Dennis, and I are kind of all having the same opinion here on the biotech.
We know like when everybody gets bearish, or even in the show, a few people are in the chat, a few people are agreeing with us too. Maybe we're all too bearish, and this market's just going to run to 1900 today. I'll pay myself.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm too bearish. I just say I'm pretty neutral. But I'm not going to go get sucked into a market that just, like the NASDAQ just ran 200 points in 5-6 days, and you're pushing up against some resistance zones. Biogen, I'm looking at a daily chart and I'm going, all right, where's it going? If it's going, well, first off, where'd it come from? It just came from like 270 to 306 as of the close. In 5 days, that's a huge move. Huge move.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how much more upside is there? Well, the 50-day is at 320, so what do you got? 14 points of upside versus a retest of the lows, 36 points lower. So, when you weigh it that way, it kind of makes you want to go, nah, I think I'll pass.
Okay. I want to get your take here on Goldman Sachs because they came out with just some blockbuster earnings here and had a high, got in the 161.44. Actually, the day that it came out with the great earnings, opened at its high for the day and it sold off that day and then basically unchanged. Then you got three closes right there in the 157.50 area. I was kind of keen on that. Now we're back up at 160. I mean, do you think? Is this the kind of chart here? The kind of pause after the earnings. Is this something you're going to maybe banking on this 151 and change low here, or you'd like to see more follow through after a great earnings report?
Well, I'm looking at it, 6-month daily chart, and I'm looking at those February lows, 160-ish, that zone. And, you'll notice we ran down to the, 151, 152 level. So that support broke, and all you're doing right now is snapping right back up into that overhead supply level. Not to mention, line up your tops off the March highs. If you line them all up, okay, maybe you can come to 62, 162, 63. But you also got the 50-day moving average at 164. So, you got a lot of overhead supply and resistance just above. So, I'm just not, I think there's also a little bit of limited upside. So, obviously, the trade was in the face of fear at the April lows.
Right.
So, which is hard to do. I mean, you had to buy the falling knife.
And that's when a lot of people are buying the falling knife, and then you get these, snapbacks, 3-4 points off the earnings. Your shorter term players are looking for an exit. Apple's coming into earnings here, and boy, this thing's just been, tonight here, boy. Do we got a setup here in Apple? You look at the highs from the last two sessions here. Look at that, 531.83 yesterday, 532.14 2 days ago, and then if you go back April 10th, you had another high to 532 level here. Apple ready, $2 away from there, ready to break out here, or is that resistance going to hold going into earnings?
Gosh, well, first off, Apple is a heavily weighted index name. I think it makes up 8% of the NASDAQ. So, sink or swim the NASDAQ, I don't know. We'll find out. Overall, I look at the daily chart, 6 months, and I'm going, this thing is just really sloppy. It's very all over the board. You just really can't see any form of pattern. And I've got a saying, if you got to squint to see the pattern, it's not there. So, when I do my scans and I look through for chart patterns that I can work off of, I'm just not seeing it, So that's just me.
I mean, actually,
it's going to react.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
But I haven't seen Apple really do this kind of trading. I mean, basically going back to October. I mean, how much have you traded under 500 and above 550? I mean, it just hasn't happened. And then also, and I think I was looking at this number a long time ago. You had that 705 high back in 2012, and then you had the low. What was that low? Like around 385 or something like that. A 320 break. You do the 50% retracement. That takes you right up to the 545, 550 area. So it looks like no matter how much Icon, pushes the stock, it just can't clear that 550 level.
Yeah, help us on and can't get up.
It's just been a
just
battle.
One of those,
yeah.
it's just one of those names where I'm just not seeing it off of a daily perspective that it's gonna want me to step up to the plate on this thing in any way, shape, or form. Does anybody know what at the money calls and at the money puts are?
Expensive.
I bet they're not
Well,
that bad because the
Yeah.
volatility's down. Let's go look. I'll go look right now and see what the
yeah,
weeklies
go
are.
look because that ought to give you at least a gauge of how many points this thing is going to move. The question is which way.
Yeah, I mean,
Which leads us to guess what? It's a 50-50 odd, so why bother? If you like excitement, you know,
you could play
but
that.
it's really it's really not investing. So
Okay, I just wanted to get your opinion. We did touch on Netflix a little bit. Had the good earnings, got the pop. I mean, you expecting this thing to just kind of drift back down here? That's a longer term chart. But what would you like to see in Netflix here? Would you like to see a bust right through the high from yesterday, 380 and change, or to keep the move going? Boy, you have that ugly day between 380 and 400. I guess this chart just kind of fits the scenario of just about every chart we've looked at today.
well, if you go back to the weekly, I mean, I'm not a big fan of weekly charts or monthlies, except just for perspective purposes, because by the time you see it on a weekly, you pretty much missed it. In this day and age. But if you went back to a weekly, you can see Netflix has made a huge move over the past couple of years, and yeah, right there, that chart that I'm seeing. Gosh, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Taser back in 2004. It just went vertical like that and ran and boom, it broke. So in a bigger picture sense, off the peak, maybe you got this first thrust down, and here it is. It's doing a snapback rally. When you zoom in on a 6-month daily chart, 320 to 372.90. That's a huge move. How much more do you want in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days?
Okay.
So it's a huge trade.
Okay.
Going back to the Apple, actually, I just priced out the options. You got $9 on the 532.5 this weekly calls, and $10 on the puts. So I mean, you're sitting here 19 points they're pricing and worth of volatility off this earnings report. Man, that looks like a fade. I wonder if Nikki's out there doing a little bit of fading on those, because I don't think it's going to move 19. Well, take you up to 550 or down to 520.
Jeez.
So yeah.
Right. Okay, so look at the 550. What's at 550?
Resistance.
There's a lot of resistance up there.
That looks like a fade.
I mean, well, you look at the Feb highs, you look at the March highs, it's up in that 550-ish zone. Who's not to say that when all said and done, if it pops, it pulls a Boeing sitting back at its, 2-3 month resistance level. So that's assuming it pops. We don't know what it's going to do.
You said that straddle's going for $20, the 530.
Well, it's crazy high. Isn't
Oh,
it crazy?
Jesus, man.
$19? That seems
Actually,
ridiculous.
I think that's a little low. Usually,
You think
you're
19's
thinking
low for
30
Apple?
points.
Not, yeah, but not
I've
lately.
seen
It hasn't
30.
moved. It hasn't been moving. It's been a low volatility stock here for the last year, really. It's been stuck between 500 and 550.
True.
I'm a fader of
But-
that, man. That $19 straddle, I don't know. I think I'd sell that $19.
Yeah,
Well, you got to look at it this way too. When you get a $19 move, that's for the volatility that you're going to have on the event. And you know what they do.
That's for
When
you
in
to
doubt,
break
spread it
even.
out.
That's for you to break even.
Yeah, it's got to make 19 points
Yeah,
in your
exactly.
to break
That's
even.
just it.
Yeah.
This isn't the early 90s anymore where you could do a straddle and they'd blow through on either side and you made money hand over fist.
Oh.
Those days are over.
Okay. All right, Harlan. We've had Harlan Pyan on all about trends here, and I'm going to call you Cautious Harlan today. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to write down in my notes here that you're looking at this rally here, and you're not exactly out there shorting everything in sight, but you're seeing these pops off the earnings plays, and some caution. So thanks, Harlan. Thanks for coming on. Maybe stick around in the chat room a little bit, see if you get some symbols thrown your way, and we will talk to you next week.
Awesome. See you later, guys.
Okay, thanks, Harlan.